We bring him in now. He's a new member of the Seattle Kraken. This might be the first guy. No, we had Ron Francis on. Second member of the Kraken.
Buddy.
Kraken?
Kraken,
I don't know.
I believe.
Oh, okay. My bad.
I don't know.
That's
I think
a good
it's
introduction.
We'll have to figure it out. Kraken or
Ask
Kraken?
Robs.
Okay, here's Gary Roberts. Can you clarify the name?
Yeah, you're asking the wrong guy. I think it's I think it's Kraken, but I'm a little cracked, so that's probably probably fitting.
I thought it was Kraken, but were you a talker on the bench, Gary? Were you a guy that would go off the beaten path and talk about plans that night, or what were you talking about when you were in the middle of a game during your career?
I just keep it simple, buddy. Like let's not get too carried away. I used to yell back at O when he'd accuse me of stealing his goal.
You did at least 5 times.
It hit me. Yeah, whatever. You're in the net. The puck's in the net. Who knows who put it in? He used to just wave his hand at me.
This is his signature move. I would take a one-timer, and he would just go in and slash the goalie in the throat, and somehow the puck would go in the net, and then he would literally do the Gilbert Dion and look at the ref and be like, yeah, I got it. I'm like, this guy is as much as you love the heart and determination, at least 5 of my goals were taken away.
That is such bull. I can't swear on the air, so I will not.
You can't.
But
That's too bad, Gary. Yeah, because we're looking at your hockey DB. You had 438 goals. So you're saying, it's 433 total.
Rob, do you ever think about 500? Like if you had to miss that year and a half out in Calgary, if 500 would have been in reach?
Yeah, I do. And I guess you always look back on it. I think about I missed over 250 games due to injuries. So, I mean, I got to think in the years that I was scoring goals in my early 30s, late 20s, I would have been nice to get there. I didn't, obviously, but I think about it probably more now than I did at the time. But that's what happens when you get old. You have more time to sit and think, and you start thinking, "Gosh, I could have been better. It could have been better."
I say that all the time.
you hit 50 that one year, 91-92. You had 53. I mean, that's a pretty elusive club. That must have been obviously one of the many highlights of your career, but do you remember your 50th? Can you remember the details of it all?
I do. I remember being stuck at like 48 or 47, and Guy Sharon came down the bench. I was starting to do the old drop pass at the blue line, and I thought I was going to score my 48th, 49th, and 50th goals with one-timers from high in the slot. We all know that's really not where I scored many of my goals. And Guy Sharon came down the bench. He said, "Would you stop drop passing the puck and get back and just drive in the net?" And I said, "Okay, Guy, got it." And I think the next night scored my 47th, and I think I scored my, I want to say 48th, and then 49th and 50th was against Billy Ranford against Edmonton in Calgary. So I do remember that.
Yeah, Battle of Alberta. That's when it was still cooking back in the early 90s.
Was it ever? But good old days. You too. I hear you guys talk about it all the time. How good you used to be. I mean, it's great, isn't it? No, we can do that now. We can just sit in the stands and or sit and have a couple of beers with our buddies and talk about how good we were. But actually, we stunk.
We're chatting with Gary Roberts.
Yeah, Robs, you knew. I mean, I played with you. I never professed to do that. Our team in Florida, we had a bunch of really good guys, but we weren't a very good team.
No, we weren't a very good team, but we liked to have fun, which was, I guess, like I say, you got to gauge the fun meter a little bit if you want to win hockey games. But different environment too, though, at the time, right? It was Fort Lauderdale at the time. I don't know if it's much better today, but tough to get many fans in the building. So you had to get pretty jacked up to play in Florida back in those days.
Robs, how do you kind of deal with the new, everyone talks about it, the athlete these days, the newer age player. I know what your temperament's like. I know how you've dealt with me, although it was 15 or 20 years ago. Like, these guys want information. They want more information than ever. Do you ever just look at a kid and say, just be quiet and go and do it and try to get better? Because it seems like sometimes they want to fall back on information or just not, that grit where you're just like, go out and do it?
Yeah, and it's a real fine line. And I'll tell you, it's been a real learning curve for me too. And I'm fortunate. I built a team away from the game to help young players develop. And then there's people inside that team that I have that have probably softened me over the years and understand that it is different. There's so much information, and I think what I try to do is just try to apply what I think is the right information in a way that's probably a lot softer today than I dealt with you when you didn't show up for Saturday workouts, right? Like when you were sleeping in because you had a late night. Like some guys still do that today, but I don't yell at them like I did you back in 15 years ago. So I'd say the game has changed. The player has changed. The way that you approach players has changed, and I've learned to do that. I enjoy it. I still think we have the best athletes in the world, hockey players. So I'm a little reluctant to say they're not competitive, because I see some guys that are ultra competitive, and they still push the group just like it did years ago when we had competitive guys on our team that pushed the group. I still see it, and I just don't think you make it without having that competitive edge. But I think just players need more feedback. They need more touch points today than we used to need back then.
With Gary Roberts. So how does that apply with the new gig? You're going to be working with Seattle. They don't even have a team yet. There's no one to yell at. There's no one to try to engage with or motivate. But at some point, they're going to have a team, and it's going to be an exciting time for the market. Clearly, do you have any association with that market? And how did this come about? You working with Seattle?
Yeah, well, I mean, Ronnie and I had a conversation middle of the summer when my contract expired with Vegas, and I absolutely loved my time there, and I think they've done extremely well with what they did there. There was an opportunity when my Vegas contract was over to do something different, and when Ronnie approached me about helping out with getting Seattle up and running as far as on the performance side and the equipment side, and building out these 3 training facilities we're trying to do right now, with the uncertainty of when seasons are going to start, and, for example, when the AHL team Palm Springs is going to come into play. So there's lots of factors. I'm excited for the opportunity. One thing I think I've learned over the years is what an NHL team needs is around performance, and also equipment, and specific exercises have changed, specific routines have changed for certain players, and I'm excited to be part of it. And we're putting a team together there that looks like it's going to be lots of fun, and learn a lot through it.
So you're literally going out to Seattle, Robs, and designing the gym facility for the locker room for the Kraken players?
Correct, and we are. Excuse me. So far, I haven't because I've done it all from afar. But it's amazing what they can do now on computer programs, and basically, you're standing in the gym looking around. We've received a rendering today, for example, from a company when I sent them the floor plan, and we started to get some pricing on equipment. And I was just amazed when they sent this thing back to me. I'm like, holy crap! Like, I feel like I'm there, which is exciting for me, because I get to see the plan that we're starting to put in place with Nate Brookerson, who's the head strength and conditioning coach that Ronnie hired. So working alongside him to make sure we have everything we need, and we're able to do that so far from here. But eventually, I'm going to have to start traveling to Seattle when things open up, and eventually get things up and operating and get ready for which will be our first development camp after the draft. And hopefully next summer.
Rob says,
sorry.
Robs, I was going to say, has training changed that much even in the last 5 or 6 years? I know it's obviously changed a lot since when you and myself and O played, but how has it continued to evolve as far as for the new athlete? Because obviously it's speed and strength is still the focus. Is it slight adjustment, or has it been a massive adjustment?
Well, I would say it continues to evolve, and our group, Gary Roberts Performance, that's our goal every year, is we have experts within our company, and I'm a big component of being like, you can't be great at everything, right? So I have Lucas is our speed coach, and that's what he really focuses on, is movement, right? And then Adrian oversees all the training, but he's our head strength and conditioning coach, but really he evolves in the weight room. And then Sylvie is our holistic nutritionist, who's it's so much more into the diagnostic side and blood work and hair samples and understanding minerals for players and the needs for players. So my point is that it's changed because people like me and our program, there's lots of companies out there now and lots of organizations. They gather way more information, and like O said, the players want that information. And what the player, your hope is that the player trusts you, and you hope he trusts your judgment and trusts what you're feeding them, and then puts it into action. And we all know, it's no secret, guys. If you take good care of yourself and train smart, you can play a really long time. And well, that sounds like a simple recipe, but as we all know, that's hard when you're 20, 22, 23. And you're in the National Hockey League. It's hard to stay that disciplined. And what we try to do is keep guys close. Like I say, this is a really tough time for NHL players to prepare for an NHL season when they have no idea when they're going to play. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine, your motivation if you really didn't know when you're ever going to play? Like, we knew September was training camp. You had to be ready. Whether you started in July or May, you had to be ready. Now players are like, gosh, when's training camp going to start? And I'm like, guys, we just got to stay close. And that's true. You got to be within a month of being ready to play in the National Hockey League. And we all know how hard that is. So I feel for the players in that capacity with the uncertainty of when 2021 is going to start.
Yeah, it really is unprecedented in terms of the preparation and the complete uncertainty in terms of when we're going to see guys back on the ice, let alone back in camp.